This video is going to be a quick response to the incident at Speaker's Corner where a bunch of male trans activists decided to pummel a grandmother because she wanted to attend a talk about whether or not the Conservative proposal to change the Gender Recognition Act so that you don't have to be a transsexual anymore to be able to change your legal gender is a good idea. Some transsexuals do actually oppose this proposed reform, including Miranda Yardley, who was scheduled to speak at this event.
You're doing this to a transsexual. You're doing this to a transsexual. That is amazing. You're silencing a transsexual.
I'm not silencing you.
Misogyny is a made-up word.
And also it's a concern for women's rights activists like Dr. Julia Long, who was also scheduled to speak.
I'd like to begin by saying I think it's really ironic that the first act that this committee, which calls itself the Women and Equalities Committee, the first report that they publish is something that actually is thoroughly antithetical to women's rights. And the voices of women and women's organisations seem to have been very much ignored in the production of this report.
A couple of speakers who are in favour of the reform were invited to speak, but they cancelled, maybe because they anticipated this kind of hostility from trans activists themselves. Trans activists have a long history of trying to intimidate and threaten venues where these kind of events are scheduled and trying to get them to shut down the events. This was no exception. They actually had to change to a secret location, which is why they were meeting at Speaker's Corner instead of the actual original venue, which was forced to cancel after safety concerns. The safety concerns being the threats made to them by trans activists.
I have never seen an issue become so central so quickly as the whole trans debate. It really has sprung up from almost nowhere in a couple of years, actually. And now what's happened is that various women who are now here called trans-exclusionary radical feminists, even if they're just actually kind of fairly normal women with no major political stance, are saying, you know what, we're not entirely comfortable with this idea, which has been put forward by Maria Miller, actually.
Maria Miller's a Tory MP who's never done anything for women. She's very, very conservative. So it's not really a surprise to me that she and the Tory party are pushing this legislation change because it is very regressive. So here they all are at Speaker's Corner chanting at the scary lesbians who've assembled so that they can go and watch this talk. 60-year-old Maria Magdalen is filming the protesters, as you would in that sort of situation. This bloke runs out and tries to smack the camera out of her hand, but that doesn't work. She decides that she's going to film the guy, and then she gets descended on by two blokes who are trying to rip her camera out of her hand. At this point, even some of the trans activist allies are a bit concerned, and one young woman tries to get one of the trans activists off. He turns around and starts squaring up with her and threatening her. I've seen a couple of rumours that he was carrying a gun. I think that is his finger pointing towards her and there is something in his hand. I don't know if it's a weapon. I don't think it's a gun. So that's where they finally got the camera. Meanwhile, trans activist bloke squaring up to his ally. The other one seems to think he's in a mosh pit. His mate attacks Maria, and then his other mate comes in from the right side to grab her as well, and she ends up on the floor. And you can see they're trying to hide their faces because they don't want the world to know that they're cowards. But we've got clear pictures of each one of them.
I don't care. If you're a piece of shit, I'm happy for them to hit her. I'm happy for them to hit her.
Really?
Yeah, if they're a piece of shit.
Do you want to tell the police that you're inciting violence? Should I just get
No, you tell them, go. I can try.
So let's look at how this brave SJW in light blue handled it when her fellow trans ally was getting threatened by a trans activist. And there you have it. She turns away because she's a coward. I mean, these people coming to these events, attacking women's right to assembly by beating up elderly women are just beyond contempt, really. So what can we learn from this? I think it's really important more people show up to these events because they don't want us to. So we have to. If they're going to carry on like this, wear a body camera, film them. They're cowards. They want the world to think that they're feminine, delicate flowers, and they want so-called TERFs to be terrified of them. Well, you can't have it both ways, so we're going to film you and we're going to expose you.